What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This weekend for UFC Sacramento, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is main eventing versus Robocop. Pretty decent card overall. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the full card predictions. And hopefully this card is a little bit better on picks than my last one. Didn't do too great on the last card. Mcvey Orobai. Start learning Japanese, bro, because you can go fight in Ryzen for all I care. Mcvey Orobai really cost us all last card, but that's besides the point. First fight on the card that we're going to be breaking down, Jackson the Moose Mcvey versus Wesley Schultz. Now, Wes Schultz, he had 2 fights on the Contender Series, got knocked out versus Mansour Abdul Malik, which is a loss that hasn't aged well. I did actually predict that Dustin Stoltzfus would do good in that fight, but that's besides the point. Wes Schultz lost to Abdul Malik, got kind of bullied in the clinch with strikes, and that's where Mcvey really does thrive. He has great clinch work, good elbows, good knees, good uppercuts in close. That's how he finished Rodrigues Dumas, or at least that's how he dropped him before he wrapped up the submission. Jackson Mcvey, he has been taken down and subbed before. We saw that against Bruno Ferreira. Wesley Schultz was able to win last time out. His opponent really just kind of gave him that victory. He lost badly to Damian Pinas. And his wrestling entries are okay, but his jiu-jitsu is definitely where he thrives. The Suliev stretch that he got on Dana White's Contender Series was pretty impressive, but I'm going to take Jackson Mcvey here. I think he can operate well at range here in this fight, defend takedowns, and he should be able to get around 1 or 2 TKO. I think he has more grit, more dog, better striking, like a better striking arsenal, and he has more durability. So yeah, give me the Moose to win this one via round 2 TKO. Next fight on the card, we got Stan Dorsainvil versus Gage Young. Gage Young, pretty well-rounded fighter, had a good win versus Thiago Moises, was able to beat Mahashate, and he lost to Evan Elder and Quillen Salkield, but that's a pretty solid level of competition. His activity isn't always the best. He doesn't throw a ton of significant strikes per minute. Well, this does say 6.32, but make no mistake, that's not always super consistent. Dorsainvil, though, he is stepping in on super short notice. Gage Young was supposed to fight Cody Steele, I believe it was, on this card. And, look, I'm not going to break down this fight too much. Dorsainvil is an okay fighter. He's well-rounded, but cardio is the most important thing in MMA. You got to imagine that he hasn't been doing the hard shark tanks in the gym. He hasn't been running the hills, hitting the assault bike. He probably doesn't have great cardio as of right now just because he's coming in on short notice. Therefore, I will take Gage Young via decision, because even if he has somebody like almost on the verge of being finished like he did versus Thiago Moises, sometimes he kind of fumbles it. We saw that in his last fight. So yeah, give me Gage Young here by decision. Next fight on the card, Mauricio Barbosa versus Ryan Kuse. Look, Barbosa is an absolutely nasty finisher. He has incredible hand speed and big time power. We saw that on the Contender Series. The guy he beat on the Contender Series just won as well, so that's a good look for Barbosa. The guy had a second fight in Dana White's Contender Series, and he absolutely murdered Bazooka. He was kind of getting touched up a little bit, just a tiny bit with the jab, straight shots, but he's a very patient fighter before he finds his shot. But when he lands counters, he'll throw at the same time you do. He can hurt you badly, and that's probably what's going to happen here against Ryan Kuse. A guy that they're bringing in to lose realistically to Barbosa. He doesn't have great striking defense. That's a recipe for disaster. So yeah, give me Barbosa, something nasty in round 1 TKO. Next fight on the card, Nasrat Haqparast versus Chris Padilla. Interesting matchup here. Haqparast coming in off the Quillen Salkield loss, and Padilla coming in off of a interesting fight versus Markel Mederos, which I don't think was a bad performance from either one of them. Chris Padilla lacks head movement, but his tight guard is pretty good. He has a good active tight guard. Like if you hit him with 2 shots, he'll take him on the guard and then fire back with his own 2 shots and end it off with a leg kick. He always tries to one-up you in exchanges. Solid Muay Thai ability. In the clinch, he's very strong, very tough. Good head position. He will mix in elbows and knees very nicely. Throws tons and tons of leg kicks. Literally is constantly spamming leg kicks. He'll teep your knees. And he keeps you guessing, and it's hard to use footwork when someone's doing that to you. Nasrat Haqparast had a good performance versus Esteban Ribovic, but I feel like Esteban Ribovic, he just doesn't have good defense. Like, he was getting touched up a little bit versus Barbosa, and Haqparast had a good performance there, like I said, but Padilla is going to be a little bit more reserved. Like, he's going to pressure, but it's going to be an educated pressure. And he's going to counter a little bit more than Ribovic was. Ribovic is a guy that is, I go, you go, I go, you go. And normally he's starting those exchanges. Chris Padilla will intercept you. He'll constantly offset your rhythm with leg kicks. And if you try to just close the distance on him like Rodrigues did, even if you're having a little bit of success with the boxing, you got to be worried about those elbows. He was able to land good elbows on Markel Mederos in his last fight. But one thing that does concern me on the Chris Padilla side, and I'm backing him to win this fight. I'm going to take him to win a decision, a close decision, 29-28. But one thing that does bother me on the Padilla side is the fact that, you know, he does get cut open quite often in his fights. You think about the Jai Herbert fight. You think about the Markel Mederos fight. He got cut open badly in both of those. He does have a wrinkle of grappling to him. That's something he may be able to use later in this fight. We think about the submission win versus James Lontop. That was a good look. But, you know, what's making me pick Chris Padilla in this fight is Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon. That's a fight that I'll never forget. You know, I had action on Haqparast in that fight, and it was very, very sweaty, and I honestly thought he lost the fight. And Jared Gordon, you know, lost to Rafa Garcia. It's not really a performance that's aged well for Haqparast. And, you know, he was getting marched down with the pressure, getting landed to the body, getting marched down. He was able to land some counters, but his activity wasn't as good in that fight when he was, you know, really being pressured by someone who would counter him. Unlike Ribovic, that's what Jared Gordon was doing. I think Padilla will be able to have similar success and be able to kind of rack up a few more numbers in terms of the significant strikes with clinch work, with those kicks. So I'll take Chris Padilla 29-28. I like that it's in his hometown as well. Not necessarily hometown, but Chris Padilla, a California guy. He's going to have the crowd behind him. And he's a guy that has momentum here. You know, Haqparast, he may be a little bit more back foot, trying to avoid heavy exchanges, considering he's coming in off of a KO loss. We saw those tendencies against Gordon. That could cost him here on the card. So give me Padilla. I like him to win this one. Look, I'm sorry. I'm just never picking the Blob to win a fight. Like, he has displayed some ability, you know, KO'd Peterson, but Peterson, you know, he's been KO'd before. We've seen him get hurt, got knocked out versus Petrino, and he wasn't even doing good in that fight, Gaziev. And, you know, Shamil gassed out via being fat versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and he's gotten colded in his last two versus fucking Perisic and against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Look, I mean, what does Gaziev bring to the table other than the fact that he's just fucking huge and massive and fat? And Nzechukwu is going to be able to match him there. Now, Kennedy, I have my problems with Kennedy for sure. I picked him to beat Marcus Bucecha last time out. Had a lackluster performance there. He hasn't looked great at heavyweight. You know, he was able to beat Brzezinski and Chris Barnett, but you're expecting him to win those fights. A big red flag for me for Kennedy is the fact that he lost to Ovince St. Preux like 3 years ago. You can't be losing to OSP at that point in OSP's career. OSP was a good fighter, but Kennedy lost to him, and he does a lot of nonsense in the cage. Like, if he's not able to get his rhythm and reads correct early, he ends up doing a whole lot of weird, completely useless feints to, like, make it look like he's being active, but he's not fucking throwing anything. Like, dude, just throw a 1-2, bro. Like, he has a crazy reach, 83-inch reach. Throw a fucking 1-2. He has good front kicks up the middle. I'm going to pick Kennedy here. He should win this via boxing skill, athleticism, but if he starts doing the fucking nonsense, then it's fucking curtains. But give me Kennedy here. He should be able to win this fight. Next fight on the card, Larian Douglas versus Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers is a guy that is underrated in certain aspects of his game. He did take the loss to Nate Landwehr, which doesn't look good in hindsight, but Nate Landwehr is a pretty good fighter, and he was a lot less washed in that fight than he has been recently. And Jamal Emmers did take that fight on short notice as well. He's had some good KOs. You think about the right hand that he's landed on Dennis Bazooka as well as Gabriel Miranda, but that's a very low level of competition. He was able to beat Hyder Emil last time out, which was a well-rounded performance from Emmers. He's a guy that does have good kickboxing skill. If he can slow the pace of the fight down, he can kind of pick you apart a little bit. Did get finished by Julian Erosa, though, on the Dana White's Contender Series. Did get TK'd by Nate Landwehr, and I'm forgetting one as well, I believe, where he got finished, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he did lose to Giga Chikadze, got outstruck there, and got subbed up versus Pat Sabatini. But, he has been finished in the past due to strikes. And Larian Douglas, is he a super good prospect that's top 15 caliber? Maybe. He's definitely not top 10 material, I don't think. But what Larian Douglas is a dangerous fight finisher, and he has nasty hands. He has decent boxing skill, but, he just throws, and he is fully committed when he does throw. Knockout versus Cam Teague on the Contender Series. Knockout versus Julian Erosa in his UFC debut, just to compare and contrast their performances versus Julian Erosa. I know it's a different version of Julian, funnily enough, same name as me. But, he has a win against Javier Reyes on the regional scene. I'm not high on Javier Reyes. I've always thought he was trash. But Jamal Emmers, if you can put him on the back foot, he does kind of just put his hands up, and he'll, go to one side in a very telegraphed manner. He won't like slip, dip, and roll out, in a slick way like, a good boxer would. JDM, Peter Yan comes to mind. Larian Douglas isn't as defensively sound. He kind of has like Topuria syndrome. He is very offense heavy, but he isn't super defensive. And he doesn't always start super fast. Like if you look at him on the regional scene, he's not always just blasting these guys in round one. But I like the momentum that Douglas has. He has the fight finishing ability, and I think he's going to be able to win this fight via TKO, end of round 2. Next fight on the card, Anthony Wint versus Terrence Chatman. No need to dig too deep into the weeds on this one. Anthony Wint is a fucking marauder. Terrence Chatman is a random guy they brought in to have him make his UFC debut. He's minus 1,000 for a reason. We're not going to waste our breath. Anthony Wint, pretty decent prospect, big-time athleticism. He'll win by round 1 TKO. Next fight on the card, Markel Mederos versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones is a good fighter, but should he be minus 275 to Markel Mederos? I'm not 100% sure about that because, let's just take a look at his UFC career. Did lose that fight to Mike Davis, which was a scrap, and it's a fight that hardcore fans look at as a high-level fight that was very entertaining as well. And I agree to that to a certain extent, but both of those guys were kind of tired and also fighting sloppy in that fight. And also Mike Davis, was he ever really that good? I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to tell. We can kind of skip over this fight right here. Was able to beat Onama, out-grappled him. I've never been super high on David Onama. Lost to Ludovic Klein. And this is where I'm going to kind of start to make my case for Markel Mederos. Now, is Markel Mederos a super dangerous fight finisher? Not necessarily, but Mason Jones, he can lose rounds in his fights because even though he's a dog, his durability scares me a little bit. Like I said, Markel Mederos doesn't have as much power as some of these guys, but dropped versus Ludovic Klein, was taking some clean shots versus Stevens. That fight was maybe not as dominant for Jones as you would have liked for it to have been. Got dropped versus Oki and got dropped versus Sola. So he's been dropped in 3 out of his last 4 fights. That's because of the aggressive style that he's been fighting with ever since he's gotten back into the UFC after having to go back to Cage Warriors for a little bit. Mason Jones, he has good combinations. He'll end him off with a high kick. The grappling solid, judo background. We saw him use that to the fullest extent versus Balaji Oki. He got taken down by Axel Sola, but we've seen Sola make big-time improvements. But back to this Oki fight, he got tagged up and he was getting hurt badly early. Then he was able to get a sick throw and then got that ground and pound TKO. And it was very impressive, and also fight of the year versus Mason Jones in March. I think that's going to be very hard to top. But you're not always going to be wanting to have these fights of the year. He kind of marauds into pressure. He'll take 2 or 3 shots, but then he'll throw 4 or 5 back, end it off with a knee in the clinch and then a high kick on the end of it, and then he'll flick you off or, do the throat cut emote. I love Mason Jones. He's literally one of my favorite fighters in the game right now just because of his recent performances. These last 2 were straight up movies. But if he does not grapple a lot in this fight, it's going to play out at pick'em odds legitimately because Mederos, like I said, he doesn't have a ton of power, but he is very clean on the feet. Easily beat Landon Quinones in his UFC debut. Got taken down a little bit and had a iffy performance last year versus Austin Hubbard, but Austin Hubbard, crafty vet, was able to beat Choinski easy, and then had a solid performance versus Chris Padilla where I don't hate you giving it to Mederos. Like, let's just take the point deduction out of the equation. Like, maybe Mederos won the last 2 rounds. I'm not 100% sure, but Mason Jones isn't a guy that's going to be deep in the leg, throwing 75 fucking leg kicks a fight, to where Mederos isn't going to be able to use any footwork. Mederos is going to be able to stay on the outside, float around, slip 2-3, pump the jab, work the calf kick. Mason Jones is pretty susceptible to getting leg kicked. The reach advantage is going to be big for Mason Jones here, but he's not even a guy that jabs a lot. Like, he has decent boxing, he hits hard, but Markel Mederos is a guy that doesn't really exchange a lot. Like, he'll either counter or it's jab, leg kick, footwork, jab, leg kick, footwork. And, you think about Mason Jones needing to grapple in this fight. Markel Mederos used to train at Factory X Muay Thai, which was a gym that was never good with grappling. Like, all their fighters struggled with the grappling. I believe in his last 2, he's been at the MMA lab. And those guys are all phenomenal grapplers. You look at Jose Delgado improving his takedown defense rapidly and stuffing all of Austin Bashi's takedowns. I think Markel Mederos is the type of athlete, the type of fighter. Benson Henderson in his corner, very high-level grapplers around him. Mario Bautista, he's getting work in with him every single day. I think he's going to make a ton of fight-to-fight improvements here. Life on the line, maybe I pick Mason Jones, but just in terms of the odds, he's a plus 225, plus 200 dog. Give me Markel Mederos to win this fight via split decision. Listen, guys, if you've ever watched my channel before, you know that I don't pick Roman Dolidze, and I'm not picking him here in this fight before. Or I'm not picking him in this fight. I never have before, and I never will. I think he's dog shit. I don't think he belongs in the UFC. I think they should have cut him after the Mcvey fight. Literally every single fight this man has had, I have picked against him since I've had my channel. Mcvey picked against him. Smith picked against him. Holland picked against him. Vettori, Christian Leroy Duncan. I picked against him in all of these fights. Like, I don't rate Roman Dolidze whatsoever. I think he's trash, super uncoordinated. I picked Fluffy to beat him, obviously. He's super uncoordinated. He's a gasser. He doesn't have good cardio. Shit striking on the feet. Like, he just oafs right hand, right hand, right hand, right hand. He makes Vettori look like a technical maestro on the feet because Dolidze is that bad. No head movement. The grappling has been overrated. Like, people legitimately thought this dude was heel hooking Fluffy. Like, are you guys smoking fentanyl? Dead ass. But, like, dude, Roman Dolidze, okay, he has some random lucky calf slicer TKO versus fucking Jack Hermanson. He has some big thudding blows versus Vettori that won him the fight. He got dropped in that fight versus Vettori, not a good look. And he copes when he's in the octagon. He's not a high-level fighter, and he's a fucking head case, and he's a dirtbag. Like, I don't rate him whatsoever, and I think he's lame. Rainer de Ridder is a guy that I've always thought was very overrated, coming in off of 1FC as a champion in 1FC. Like, dude, 1FC MMA is a joke. The kickboxing and Muay Thai in 1FC, top tier television. But, like, the MMA is straight goy slop. But, dude, Rainer de Ridder, he was able to, like, I've picked against him in most of his fights, except for, I basically get all of his fights wrong, realistically. I picked Baralho last time out, but, I picked him to beat Allen, I picked Whitaker to beat him, I picked Bo Nickel to beat him, I picked Holland to beat him, I picked Mearshart to beat him. I've never been high on Rainer de Ridder, but he's proven me wrong, and, he was able to kind of, we're going to look over this GM3 fight, because that shit was just weird. GM3, like, overperformed in that fight, and de Ridder was able to get a late submission. He easily took down and subbed Holland, was able to knee Bo Tato, Chip, Bo Penny, Bo Nix in the fucking guts and just TKO'd and made him quit. That was a good performance. He got taken down with a beautiful ankle pick by Bo Nickel, but then he hit a nice sweep, got in top position. Bo Nickel, I believe, tried to hit like a mounted guillotine, got sweeped, and then de Ridder basically dominated the fight from that point on out. Whitaker banked the first 2 rounds against him, but de Ridder was able to show some good heart, good clinch work, beat him the last 3 rounds, had a weird performance versus Allen, just kind of died in that fight. I don't even think that was round 4. It may have been round 4, but I swear it was like the end of round 2. He gassed out and they called the fight, but got beaten by Baralho. But Baralho, very well-coached fighter, good left hand, athletic southpaw. That's not what you're getting when it comes to Roman Dolidze. Rainer DeRitter is going to be able to use the clinch work more effectively because Roman Dolidze, he does just hold you against the fence because he's not a good fighter. That's what he'll do. He'll hold you against the fence. And Rainer DeRitter is very good in those positions. He's going to get, it doesn't matter if he has double overs or double underhooks. He can do good things from both of those. Like if he has double overs, maybe a trip is coming. If he has those double unders, he can rip knees to the body. If it's, you're fighting 50-50 pummeling, he'll sneak in crafty, little scooping uppercuts, hit you in the eyes with his knuckles. Like he's pretty crafty and in close on the fence in the clinch. And also I think he's the much superior grappler. At range, his teeps, his awkward knees, the southpaw stance is going to give Roman Dolidze issues. Give me Rainer DeRitter here by round 3 submission. Because eventually Dolidze's going to crumble and DeRitter's going to wrap him up in something slick. I'll call it anaconda choke for DeRitter in round 3. Vitor Petrino versus Sergey Spivac. I'm going to be taking Sergey Spivac here to win a decision. Vitor Petrino is a guy that has a lot of athleticism and a lot of natural skill. But he just, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the cardio or the decision making or what, but he just doesn't always put it together. Was able to beat, Anton Turkalj, low level of comp, Pragnio, low level of comp. Let's just go up to ever since this fight right here, because we all remember when he completely fumbled this layup in Brazil versus Anthony Smith. That's bad decision making, and Sergey Spivac has very good submissions. You think about Sergey Spivac, he's been able to sub up guys, subbed up Derek Lewis, was able to sub up Marcin Pragnio not too long ago. He's had good performances recently. But Petrino completely put his head in a guillotine versus Smith. Got knocked out stiff by Jacoby after kind of being way too hesitant in that fight. He moves up to heavyweight. Okay, he gets the first round sub versus Austin Lane. That's expected. But these last 2 performances were big time suspect because neither of these guys are on Sergey Spivac's level, like Steven Asplund, Thomas Peterson. This Peterson fight was playing out very closely. Petrino got tired. Eventually, he landed a lucky uppercut. It was a 6-3. And then he was able to get the TKO, but make no mistake, he was gassed and struggling in that fight. Same thing goes for the Asplund fight. He was able to narrowly scrape by, but Asplund was in there boxing him up at times. And Petrino's a gasser. Petrino at heavyweight does not have cardio. And Spivac in his last 2 against D'Elia and against Waldo Cortez Acosta has been able to hold a higher pace on the feet than he has in the past. And I think he's a superior grappler to Vitor Petrino. If Sergey Spivac comes in here and fights smart, he'll be able to win a decision or submit him late. I think Spivac can kind of just box with him early, land the jab. Petrino doesn't have good head movement. He kind of just takes it straight to the chin. I think Spivac can kind of box him up a little bit. Maybe he eats some big body kicks, some big right hands to the gut from Petrino, but he'll tough it out. And then, I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns, and then Petrino is going to be super tired. Like I said, cardio is the most important thing in MMA, and I think Spivac's going to be able to beat him on the cards. So yeah, give me Spivac by decision. The main event of the evening, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Gregory Robocop Rodrigues. This is an interesting fight to try to predict, but it's not a hard fight to know it's going one of 2 ways. It's very, very easy to know kind of the outcome of this fight, but it's hard to pick which one's going to occur, if you know what I mean. Because it's either Robocop in rounds 1 or 2 with a big right hand to the chin, or it's going to be Fluffy weathering an early storm, maybe getting bloodied up a little bit, but then rounds 3, 4, and 5, Robocop, he has asthma, he has bad cardio. He's the definition of lactic acid after the first round. Fluffy's going to be able to drown him and sub him up late. So it's which one is going to happen? I like Fluffy a lot. If he was coming in off of a win, if he never lost to Sean Strickland, I'd pick Fluffy. But even though Sean Strickland is a much higher level operator than Gregory Rodrigues, Sean Strickland was implementing a back foot game plan, kind of jabbing on the back foot, using footwork, long scooping uppercut, long check hook out of the way. Strickland was fighting very evasive in that fight and fought very, very well. I picked Strickland relatively confidently, and I had large amounts of money on Sean Strickland in that fight versus Fluffy as a big-time dog, but I had the point spread, though, for real. Fluffy, though, like, he was able to beat Dolidze. I don't rate that win, and he was kind of getting touched up a little bit with right hands in that fight. We've seen him go down to body shots before. Strickland, Kevin Holland. Gregory Rodrigues is really good at digging that right hand to the body, coming upstairs with a big right hand. And do I think Robocop can match Anthony Fluffy Hernandez with the grappling? No. But I think he can maybe just prevent the grappling from even happening early. Because if he gets put on his back, like, he's straight toast. Like, I don't care about the jiu-jitsu accolades. Robocop's not that guy in MMA when it comes to the grappling. We've seen him get taken advantage of. He was able to out-grapple Christian Leroy Duncan, win that fight pretty solidly, but that's a different style matchup. Kind of got touched up a little bit on the feet versus Bruno Ferreira last time. He was very, very patient. He can't be nearly as patient in this fight, but I think he was kind of weary of the power of Ferreira, considering Ferreira had knocked him out before in the past. If he comes out aggressive on the front foot, maybe a little bit lower of a stance, because he's one of these guys, he stands super, super tall. Maybe a little bit lower of a stance. I think he can maybe deter Fluffy from wanting to shoot early, because sometimes Fluffy won't shoot super early. You think about the Michel Pereira fight. It took him getting kicked in the gut really, really bad and getting hurt before he got those takedowns going. Yeah, give me Robocop. I'll take him round 1 TKO. I like Fluffy a lot. I just saw an interview, and this is literally changing, like, it's influencing my pick. I'm not saying it's changing my pick. It's influencing this pick. I just saw a video of Fluffy doing a fucking interview with somebody, and he was like, dude, my 100 milligram edible just kicked in. Don't get me wrong. I like edible just as much as the next guy, but why are you ripping 100 milligrams a couple days out from a fight, dog? Like, maybe chill on that. You know, maybe just smoke like one joint in the evening or something. 100 milligram edible is kind of crazy, but I don't know. I think Fluffy, he kind of has mental lapses. I think he's a little bit weak to the body. I don't know if that's like a physical issue or a mental issue. I'm not 100% sure. Robocop, if he lands like liver shots, straight rights to the body, it's going to be big time pain for Fluffy. Fluffy, like, even though he was able to out grapple Dolidze's way more shit than Robocop is. Fluffy, like, when it's a guy like Brendan Allen or a Brendan Allen or even a Rodolfo Vieira early, he kind of doesn't just completely ragdoll them. And if Robocop can, like, not get completely ragdolled in the first 2 rounds, it's most likely he's on the front foot marching down Anthony Hernandez, kind of like how he performed against Chidi Njokuani and Jared Cannonier early. You know, you think about that Cannonier fight, he gassed out, but he was comfortably up in those first 2 rounds, got 3 knockdowns, I believe, in the first 2 rounds. He has big power, and I think it can deter Fluffy from shooting early, and if Robocop lands one big right hand to the body, big right hand to the chin, it could be over. Do I think Rodrigues is that great? No. Like, I think a lot of guys could beat him. I think, you know, Damian Piñas would chin him. I think that, you know, Bo Nickel could probably beat him. Like, he's a very beatable fighter, but, you know, I think fucking Kopylov could probably knock him out. No, he fucking beat Kopylov. What am I saying, dude? The Kopylov win was solid. Give me Robocop. I really just forgot about that fight. Damn, that was a casual take. But he literally beat Kopylov 29-28 on the Dustin Poirier card. But, yeah, and I ain't even checking the record for real. Yeah, give me Robocop. Give me Robocop round 1 TKO. I like Fluffy. I kind of want him to win, but give me Robocop. That's my pick here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. Enjoy the card this weekend, and have a great rest of your day.